Kia ora whānau, hola familia, hello family, my name is Cyrus, welcome back to my channel. I've been offline for the last 2 weeks, and so I'm really excited to share with you about what I've been up to and the spaces I've been blessed and fortunate to be a part of. And so I'll be speaking today about my experience with Rites of Passage and my understanding of Rites of Passage, plant medicine, and how important it is to bring hauora and well-being back to the community. So make sure you stay tuned. And so for the first week that I was offline, I was fortunate enough to be part of this potent experience, a boys' rites of passage between the ages of 13 and 15, but based off of te ao Māori concepts and pūrākau. So Māori philosophy and wisdom, and pūrākau being story. This organization is called PouTama, Rites of Passage, who are based out of Whaingaroa, Raglan on the west coast of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And all I have to say was, it was amazing, it was exceptional, and I am so privileged and honored to be part of it. How I got to become part of it actually was about 6 weeks ago. I saw an advert for their men's Rites of Passage, because they run men's Rites of Passage, but from my understanding, they're more focused on our young boys. And I saw the advert, plus I had already researched them and I had heard about them already through people that I had just met that week. So I was like, oh, this is a tohu. This is a sign that I should be part of this and make a connection. At that time, I didn't have the money to afford the Wānanga, the retreat. So I just reached out to them and I just expressed who I am, my passions and what I do within the healing space. And they invited me to come along. And because of that and my beingness and how I show up, it led them to invite me to be part of the mentor group. The mentor group was, there were 6 mentors and then 3 main facilitators, and I was part of the mentor group. There was an invitation for me to weave and share a bit of my own wisdom and my own knowledge, and also an invitation for me to witness and experience. What made this retreat, PouTama Rites of Passage, so potent and so powerful is because it's based off of indigenous wisdom, it's based off of ancient wisdom, it's based off of story, and there is many minds and wisdom that have come together to curate and construct this Rites of Passage that is suitable for the modern day and the modern day child. One of the most powerful aspects of this Wānanga, this retreat, is pūrākau, which is story. And not just any story, these are stories that have been passed down for generations from our ancestors. These stories are to do with mythology, our atua, our gods and goddesses. And specifically the story that we worked with was a story called Noho Tatapu, which is a story when Papatuanuku and Ranginu were in such a deep loving embrace that it was suffocating their children. And half of the children were over it, and they wanted space to breathe, to have their own life, and the other children, half of the children, wanted everything to stay as it is. And so with these two thoughts of wanting to stay exactly as the same and wanting to grow. And this story is some of the children of Papatuanuku, which is Mother Earth, Ranginui, Sky Father, get curious about the speckle of light. And so the story is they try to figure out what this is, but one of the other children that doesn't want anything changed tells him to ignore it. I'm also summarizing here. I'm still learning the exact telling of the story, and I'll get better at it. So this is a summarized journey, just a summarized story, just so you know. And the children are trying to figure out what this speckle of light is. And so eventually what happens is one of the other children, which is the older brother, says to ignore it, but then another brother says the best way to help them ignore it is to just flood it with light. And because this Atua, this god is the god of darkness, I'm pretty sure his name is Fiddle, and he gets tricked by Tane, which is another brother, another sibling, to just flood it with light, and he does, and then it illuminates that space. And eventually, in another story, they separate Papatuanuku and Ranginui later on. But the whole story is, and how I feel like it was used within the Wānanga, was that to journey deep into your own self, into your own darkness, and notice the speck of light and illuminate the darkness. And so this is one of the 3 or the 4 Pūraku stories that we worked with to educate our boys and to give them inspiration and pass on wisdom from our ancestors to help them navigate their internal world. So Pūraku is one of the, at least from my own understanding, one of the big keys on how we created inspiration, a pathway for these boys during their rites of passage. Another part that was important was reflecting back on our childhood. And so we went through this journey of reflecting on our childhood and specific questions, prompts that invited us to reflect, both us as the mentors and the boys, and so we could share and explore these key components of our childhood that if not fully brought to awareness, illuminated or understood, then can create distortion, this is my own words, and challenge as an adolescent or as an adult, because they're not fully integrated, these parts that are from childhood. And so we went through this journey of childhood and then adolescence and then into manhood. And the clarity of that structure with the physical exercises, with the stories, I felt gave clear direction for the boys on where to go. Plus all the sharings from the mentors, including myself, we got to model about what it means to be a man that shares, that dives deep into his heart and soul, and kind of role model men and different role models of men that they can be. And so if you're interested and you are living in New Zealand or even in Australia, this is not just for our Maori boys. These are for all boys that are ready to go through a rites of passage that is rooted in Indigenous wisdom. And I want to link them in the description. PouTama Rites of Passage, a really potent container that is done in the ngahere in the bush, with a great team of facilitators, and held in ritual and ceremony and story, challenge, brotherhood, community. Yeah, it was very powerful. Couple of my really struck me powerful moments were just some of the sharings that the boys shared, and I'm not going to share what they are because what happens in the Wānanga stays in the Wānanga, but there are some moments that were shared that I witnessed with such unconditional love. Some of the hurt, the suffering that the boys have experienced, and then some of the hurt and suffering that the men have experienced, but just always surrendering to love, and then having that safety to share, basically, this sucks, but I still love you. You hurt me, but I still love you. You hurt me, but I still want to love you. There was many moments shared like that, and that just really just dropped me into compassion for the work that is being done and the beauty and the value of healing. So that's all I want to share about what happened through that Wānanga, because what they do is they don't share the schedule. They keep it in the unknown, in the darkness, in te pō. So there's an element of spontaneity, surprise, for the experience. So all I can say is that this Wānanga and this retreat is very powerful, based off of indigenous wisdom, Māori indigenous wisdom, held by a group of men that just want to build strong men, supported by the ngahere, the bush, and the natural world, the taiao. And for me, how I was creating a rites of passage in the last 3 years in my head on how I would like to create one, and the things that I was going to include, they did it. They did everything. And so for me, it feels good to share this. I expressed to them, I was like, I'm in. Whatever you guys are doing, I'm in. Because for me, it's like, why create something new when I can just be part of something and share and add to? And it's this this narrative that I'm shifting from, of being the lone wolf and coming into community and doing it with people. So why is rites of passage important? Why have we lost the art of rites of passage? In my own understanding, rites of passage is important specifically for our young men, because it's like a flag post. It's an honoring, it's an acknowledgement, it's a moment to reflect and to plan and envision for the future. One of the things that I have learned in my own understanding is that women, females, have an internal rites of passage. When they're around the ages of 13 to 14 to 15, they have their first bleed. And so they're naturally forced into a rites of passage. And this also speaks from an esoterical point of view, that women are of the nature, women are our natural flow state. The feminine is the natural flow. And so it makes sense that they are more connected to the natural world. And so they follow the seasons. Their energy, their flow is the flow of the moon. They are the lunar cycle. Men are the soul cycle, the cycle of the sun. And so another rites of passage that women have is when they have their first child, is they go through that whole process internally. And when you also think about the energetic quality of the feminine is inside, it is rest, it is home, it is receiving. Masculine is expression, it is outside, go and do. And so therefore, in my understanding, is males have to create rites of passage externally, and they have to experience challenge externally, whereas women experience their challenge and their rites of passage internally. And so historically, men have come together to create these spaces of adversity and challenge at the significant age of 13 to 15, because that is biologically and physiologically when we hit puberty. And then also, if we think about it from a perspective of the chakras, is we go from our root, where the first 7 years is about grounding in, is about understanding our physical world. And then when we come into our second chakra, which is 7 to 14, is we go into understanding our sacral, our connection to more sexuality, creativity. And then when we go into 14 to 21, we hit our solar plexus and we start to want to create relationships, step outside ourselves and experience more than ourselves. And so 13 to 15 is a very potent age for honoring. And so for our boys, what's the most important thing about rites of passage is to create challenge for them to meet their current ego and to come to an ego death and to meet that challenge and rise above that challenge. The ego being the part of us that the part of us that likes to keep us safe, that likes to keep the identity, the personal reality safe. And so when we hit our 13 to 14-year-old, energetically, physiologically, it is a great time to kill the ego, so then the new ego can be born, which is the adolescent ego. And how do we do that? We create challenge, we create story, we sit in circle with other men, we sit in Wānanga and we talk, and then we do. In this day and age, most men no longer have that rites of passage, and so therefore most men are just overgrown children. Because one of the important things about the rites of passage is to create a space of challenge where you can meet your emotions, your emotional self, where you can meet your psychological self, where you can meet the part of you that says, I can't do this or I can do this. And to build and fortify the foundations of the self, so you have the tools of the self and the foundation of the self to start stepping out and to start build relationships and start to build your identity. Because once again, 14 to 21 is when we're in our solar plexus, which is about relationships and separating from our home and our home nest. So rites of passage is probably one of the most important aspects, events for evolution, for the entirety of the being, for both men and women. Women do have it internally, whereas men need to experience it externally, and so therefore men have to come together to create this experience of rites of passage. And then there are many other opportunities to experience rites of passage for men, which is at the age of 21, which is at the age of 28, which is also our first Saturn return, which is about identity. And then at the ages of 35, typically it's every 7 years, because 7 years the whole body renews itself, and you have a new body at the age of 7, every 7 years. And also according to Rudolf Steiner, every 7 years is significant. And then also if you follow the concept of the chakras, the root chakra is the 0 to 7, sacral is 7 to 14, solar plexus is 14 to 21, the heart is 21 to 28, throat, and so forth and so on. And so each of these points and these ages have a significance on where you should and can be in your evolution. And if you're not, then you are an incomplete part of yourself relating. Does that make sense? Meaning that if you don't do the work of transitioning from 13-year-old self to 14-year-old self, from young boy to young man, then you're carrying those aspects of young boy into a young man, and then it just gets harder and harder as you go on in life. And this is why we have so many men that don't know how to regulate their emotions, that are not showing up for their partners, for their families, that do not know how to find their purpose and their vision. And so therefore we do have a higher rate of suicide because of men not having the tools and the foundations to know who they are and what they're capable of. So rites of passage is really important. Really, really important. I encourage you to find groups that are doing rites of passages, especially for our young boys. Create them yourself, do some research, and start to create a culture of rites of passage. We need to bring this back to save our children. And so this organization, once again, is called PouTama Rites of Passage, based out of Whangaroa, Raglan. And there are many other ones, but this one, go check them out. I'll link them in the description, and send your boy there. They also have women's and girls ones as well. So that was my first 5 days in this beautiful container with these young boys, and watching them step into manhood and watching them go from individuals to brotherhood to brothers. So that was really powerful. After that, I had an initiation with plant medicine, a further initiation. I'm not going to say which plant, but I'm going to use the word mother. And long story short is I'm walking this path of serving plant medicine. I do serve some plant medicine already. And a friend of mine that I come to know, who came to know me in my path, had asked me like, hey, Cyrus, do you want to co-create a space together? Because I have medicine, but I don't really know how to serve. And I said, let me think about it. Let me ask some of my mentors. And so I asked two of my mentors, men that I have learned a lot from. And to be honest, I thought they were going to say no. But they said, it is up to you, Cyrus. Use your own discernment, and it's up to you if you trust the space. And like, to be honest, this has been answer I get quite often of when I seek guidance, when I seek clarity from people that I feel I can offer clarity. And I've watched them also offer clarity to many people. But when it comes to me and my own patterning of what I've noticed of seeking guidance is, it's always been, it's up to you. From spirit, from many different teachers, it's always been, it's up to you. So it was interesting to receive that once again. And so I told my friend, they're like, okay, first let's sit together, see if it's in alignment, see if the atua are in alignment with this. And we sat 2 nights. He invited a friend actually for the first night, but it was a friend that I've worked on and I've offered done a energy and bodywork treatment on, and so I trusted her in that space. And the first night was hard because I was exhausted from the Wānanga, and I had eaten, so you have to go on a dieta. And so the first night was hard, and I invited us to co-create the space, but they wanted me to lead it. So they wanted me, so yeah, I wanted to co-create the space, and I opened the space a little bit, like I opened the space, but then I went into a big purge, purging like physically, the food and water and liquid, and then also energetically I was purging the stories of suffering, pain and hurt from the Wānanga, from the retreat. And I forgot actually that I do that, because when I do like extended periods of healing work on people and clients and ceremony, that I need to have a space to come back to myself. And quite often I'll just do a journey with myself with plant medicine, and then I'll just go through this whole purging ritual and just purging all the stories out of my vessel, out of my being. So I'm just clear and I'm just me. So that first night really was just about me cleaning and clearing. And then the second night I reflected, and it was very clear that I was to lead the space. And so I led the space, and I had already created on how I would serve and work with our mother. And it was great. It was, to be honest, it felt really effortless for me. I do facilitate other plant medicines similar to how I would serve with mother. And it was effortless, and I indigenized the space. I interweaved karakia into the space, waiata, tonga puoro, and it felt very, very comfortable. But what I was wanting to learn was to learn if this was in alignment. And basically the tohu, the signs there for me were the first night, supposedly and apparently, like, it's always quite loud. There's lots of dogs, there's lots of noise, but the first night was dead silent. And I was like, oh cool, that's a good tohu. And then the second night when we sat for ceremony, as soon as we sat, it started raining, and I was like, oh, beautiful, cleansing and clearing. That's a good sign. My third sign was everybody arrived safely back into their bodies and were present. And I was like, great, they're safe. Safety is important. And then the last sign was the owner of the place where we were doing ceremony. Her friend came to visit the next day. And he went in, he was a Māori man, gave him a hongi when I met him. He went in and he spoke to his friend. And then he came back out and he asked me, like, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Tauranga Moana. And he's like, how long have you been working with this plant medicine for? And I told him who I was, where I've been, the work that I've been doing, my intentions, my own personal journey. And then he said, which was super interesting, is like, oh, I am the governor of some Māori organization, and I'd like to work on making this a part of our tikanga, New Zealand and Aotearoa, and for us to have accessibility to it. And I was like, wow. And so he said, I would like to have a conversation with you. And so, yeah, a bit of an initiation. And actually, I was listening to a podcast this morning about the divine feminine, the goddess, the woman, and how the woman, the feminine, the mother can initiate you. And I was just reminded of, yes, the woman, how the invitation they can offer a man into stepping into their power. And it was definitely an initiation. And yeah, I'm super excited for what's going to unfold. And so the question this Māori man asked me is like, so does it feel in alignment? And I said, oh, it's the image that I can share with you. It's like a beautiful flower that is slowly blooming. And the invitation for myself is to be grounded in humility, listen, and make sure I check my ego. And so I'm just witnessing this flower blooming and unfolding. So that was awesome. And I was super excited. Yeah, it was awesome. And I absolutely love plant medicine ceremony. And my vision for how I walk out of this life is just serving plant medicine. And to be a big part of that within Aotearoa New Zealand. Lastly was the last event of this 2-week experience was the first whole water well-being event at my marae. Now, if you don't know what a marae is, it's my traditional home, my traditional grounds, and it's like my ancestral house. It's like where my tribe, my iwi, my community come together for celebrations, for learning, for funerals, for tangi funerals, for many different things. And this was the first whole water well-being event at my marae. And my generation, myself and my generation, now need to start thinking about what it looks like for us to take over the marae, to be the leaders. And I know for me, like I've expressed to some of my cousins, that this is where I want to be, what I want to focus on, which is well-being, rongoa, healing, and health. And so I was really excited to have this event at my marae. And I offered a shamanic energy and bodywork, and then I also did a kōrero, a conversation, a workshop on emotions. And basically, what I experienced there was the gratitude, for me at least, expressed to me for being of that marae, and coming from that marae, that place, was bringing back what I've learned in the outside world, and now sharing it with my community, sharing it with the ancestors of tomorrow, the children, the people, so we can rise together as a community. And I felt that, and I received that. And yeah, just the importance of, like, in the hero's journey, like basically I am completing my hero's journey. I've been away for 10 years. I've been outside of New Zealand learning all these things, and now I'm completing the hero's journey and bringing back what I've learned back to my community, back to my tribe. And so, yeah, just an invitation for you is, how are you serving your community? What is your community? Are you connected to your community? And just an invitation to think bigger than yourself, and to think of the children of tomorrow, because the children are the ancestors of tomorrow. And for me, my mission, my devotion is to give the children of tomorrow, the ancestors of tomorrow, the skills to emotionally regulate, to self-heal, to understand energy, esoterical wisdom, spiritual wisdom, to understand themselves. And so then their foundation is much more supported than my foundation, and then it just gets bigger and bigger for the next children. And so creating empowerment that you can be your own healer and you can live the life that you want. And so yeah, just want to highlight that importance of how are you serving your community. So yeah, that's been me. That's been me over the last 2 weeks. Currently, right now, what's alive for me was quite hard to push record, to start again. And I've been having ideas on how I would like to restructure and continue to grow my content creation and my content sharing. And actually, one thing I actually had an insight over the last couple of days is that there's been a part of me that's been in fear of what if I do go all in on content creation? Because I've got a bit of equipment, and I have been putting off getting better equipment. I have the money for it, but there's a part of me that's like, because I have my money in investments, but there's a part of me like, oh, if I pull my investments, then I'm putting myself at risk. And so I've been holding this money and putting my now self at a uncomfortable financial position for my future self, because and full transparency, in the last couple of months, 2-3 months, I haven't really had any income. I've been doing things, events, but they're energy exchange, they're koha based. Yeah. And so I always been thinking, how can I create a space on the digital world that supports me to do whatever I want, to be in this flow of wairua, in this flow of healing, which is content creation. Building my personal brand is that golden ticket for me, actually. But I've noticed that, yeah, in the last couple of days, there's been a part of me that hasn't been fully trusting my path, trusting that I'll be financially abundant, trusting that I'll be financially looked after. That's been in fear of what if. And so I've been sitting with that for the last couple of days, and yeah, been inspired actually in the last couple of hours. It's like, I need to go all in. I need to surrender. I need to get the equipment I need and go all in. Go all in on myself and back myself. And trust my financial abundant flow. And trust that the value that I offer will be returned to help me keep offering value and support and healing for others. So, thank you for listening, whānau. I do a little karakia to close off this little journey, and hope you enjoy my content, and like, comment, and share. And comment also on things you'd like to explore, questions you have for me. Most likely I'll be able to speak about it. Anyway, bring your eyes to a close, taking a deep inhale and exhale. Ayo, ayo. Ayo, 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 ki te whenua, ayo, ki te rangi, ayo, ki ngā mea katoa, ti hei maui ora. See you next time.